This PetX Talk is brought to you by Pet World Media Group, your partner in all things pet media. Additional funding and considerations provided by Natura Pets, Found Animals, and Dogwise Publishing. Are you ready to be empowered? Then join us for this PetX Talk.
Hi, I'm Robin Bennett. I'm a certified professional dog trainer and author and speaker on a lot of topics, including off-leash dog play, which is one of my favorite topics, and also on keeping kids and dogs safe. As a trainer, I experience a lot of owners who just really are trying to figure out how do they keep their dogs safe. Unfortunately, supervision is just not enough. And we hear that all the time. We hear trainers say it, we hear breeders say it, we hear dog trainers, veterinarians, everybody says, supervise your dog. And the reality is parents are doing that. I know that you care about your dog. I know that you care about your family. And if you're like my clients, you still have mishaps. Misunderstandings happens between dogs and kids all the time. And why is it that supervision isn't enough? I think I have the answer to that. I have the answer to why 800,000 Americans are going to the hospital every year for medical treatment for dog bites. Most of them, unfortunately, children, ages 9 to 12. And it's not because parents aren't supervising. That tends to be what we tell you to do, but I know you're doing that. I had a client just come in the other day, and I'll call her Jane, and she had a dog who has bitten her son 3 times. Now I know you're saying, how could they possibly let their dog bite their child 3 times? The bites weren't severe, and obviously she was asking for help. This was a great owner, a great woman with a great family, and a really good dog, but she just didn't know what she was doing. She was supervising. Every single bite that had happened, she was standing within a foot of her dog. It's a little bit like me saying, supervise your mom when your mom's in the hospital. If you're not a nurse, you don't know what that means. You don't know all the buttons and contraptions that you have maybe on their bedside or that's hooked up. You don't know what that means. When I went salmon fishing about probably 7 years ago for the first time. And I remember being out there and the guide hooked up my bait and gave me the fishing rod and said, throw your bait out there and then watch for when the fish bite. And I was like, okay, so I'm supervising my rod. I have it in my hand. And all of a sudden the guide comes rushing over and he's like, what are you doing? You have a fish on there. I was like, really? Because I was watching. There was no fish there. But clearly I just didn't know what I was seeing. And that's the thing with dogs and kids and families. We're telling you to supervise. We're not telling you what you're watching. And so what I want to do is just give you a couple of really easy things to look for so that you can know when to intervene and get your dog out of a situation before the bite happens. Because unfortunately, this is going to happen time and time again unless we get more information out there to help you intervene before the bite. So I like to keep things simple. I work off of a traffic management signal. So if you've driven a car before, you know traffic signals. Red is stop, yellow means caution, be careful, slow down, and green is good. Well, we all know the green body language of a dog. That is the loose, wiggly, happy, oh, I really want to see you. That's when the dog comes up to you and you pet them and their entire body's wagging. They stay with you when you pet them. They don't want to go away. That's all green body language. Most of us recognize that. That's the dogs that we're like, love to play with because they really want to be with us. And then most of us know the red body language. That's the stop. Don't go any farther. The dog is not happy. That's the growling, the barking, the snarling, and obviously the biting. That's what happens. And then parents go, wow, there's a problem. It's already red. What I want you to look at is a couple of really easy yellow signals. Yellow is the caution signals. That's when we want to be taking the steps to stop the behavior before it turns into red. So 3 really simple things you can look at. One is stiffening or freezing. So if a dog goes from open mouth, happy, panting, and all of a sudden he closes his mouth and stiffens, and it's almost like he holds his breath, that's an immediate warning signal to you to say, that dog's uncomfortable. He just went from loose, happily wiggly dog to stiffening for a second. As soon as that happens, I would try to intervene. And when I say intervene, I just mean call him away. I mean, tell him to come to you. If he has a leash on, you can walk him away. Or if he's about to approach something that you think he shouldn't approach, you can move that object, whether it's a child, another dog, something he's afraid of. You just want to give him distance. So one of the first things look at is any kind of still stiffening body language. What I hear a lot of people say is, My dog is fine when somebody approaches. Fine usually translates to no behavior. The dog's not moving. And no behavior is not a good thing in a dog. Stiffness is not a good thing in a dog. So when you look down and you say, hey, my dog's fine, he's just standing there, that probably means he's tolerating the behavior or the experience that's happening around him. It doesn't mean he's happy about it. And we really want him to be happy. We want the green body language. So stiffening is the first thing I would look for. Another good yellow signal that you can look for is a yawn. Dogs yawn when they want to release tension, kind of like we do. So outside of maybe your dog just waking up and you think he's tired, if you're just watching him and something's going on in his environment and he starts yawning, I would take that as a signal to mean something's going on that making him a little bit uncomfortable. And that's another time to intervene. It might be a child's approaching him, it might be another dog's approaching him. Stop and take a look at what's going on in that environment, because that might be a time when you can intervene as well before he gets to where he's beyond his tolerance and he wants to bite. And then another really simple, easy yellow signal you can watch for is avoidance behavior. There's lots and lots of times when a dog chooses the right action. He says, I don't like what I'm in, I'm going to move away, and he'll walk away. And that's great. The problem is if he walks away and you continue to follow him or your child continues to follow him, you're pushing that dog into another color. You're pushing him into red where he's saying, I really don't want to be here. I'm going to choose to walk away. You need to let him have that space. Stop the child, stop the other dog, stop whoever's following him. Another way a dog can show that same signal without physically moving away is just to turn their head. So we call it a look away. When a dog is close to something and he just doesn't want to interact with that thing, he might just turn his head. It's almost like saying, talk to the paw. So if your dog is doing that, again, take heed. That's a dog saying, I'm a little uncomfortable, don't really like what I'm getting myself into, and they need help. That's when you, as the parent, can step in and really be your advocate for that dog and help that dog while it's still in that yellow stage. Because yellow is all pretty movable. We can get that dog back to the green and back to the happy, carefree dog that we know and love. We just don't want to let the yellow go on too long because that's what turns into red. So hopefully with those 3 easy tips, you can help to keep your dog safer and you can help to keep all the kids that encounter your dog safe as well. And I hope that helps. Thanks.
We're here with Robin Bennett, and she just gave us a wonderful PetX talk. I want to follow up one of the main points of your topic by asking, at what point is it appropriate and what's the proper approach to introduce our pets to our children and vice versa?
Well, for any introduction, whether it's another person, a child, a dog, whatever, space and time are your friends. So letting everything happen at the dog's pace is really important. Our biggest tendency is to rush things. I call it the Santa Claus scenario. You know, if you're in line for Santa Claus and the child doesn't like it from 10 feet away, that does not stop, the child does not stop crying the closer you get to Santa, and going faster doesn't help. So it's the same thing. You have to really go slow. And if the dog isn't willing to approach the person, then you can't speed it up. You have to just give them time. And then sometimes it's distance. Maybe you're just hanging out with the kid and the dog in the room, but they're not interacting. They're just child's laying or sitting on a chair or whatever, and the dog's over on the other side of the room. I use a lot of treats, so I want the dog to have a positive association with the child. So the child can throw treats at the dog, or the parent can give treats to the dogs while they're there. But those 3 things, basically, you want to get to the point where the dog is willingly approaching the person or the child, whoever, or the other dog, whatever it is you're introducing them to, on their speed.
What are some of the most common mistakes that you see pet parents making when it comes to the interactions with children and or strangers?
Well, there's a couple. One is just letting the activity level get too revved up. It's just like children on a playground. When they get too crazy, a parent is stepping in to go, okay, well, I know we're about to get into a fight or somebody's going to start crying or whatever. Same thing happens. Even dogs that love children, if you get everybody all riled up, including the dog, that's not a good scenario. So we can run and play in the backyard and the children can be out there and the dog can be out there and they all love each other. But if that goes too long, something's going to happen that's not going to be good. And so letting it go too far but without some kind of interruption or some kind of break is one thing. So I would really recommend intervening and just get the dog to stop and sit. I love to play the freeze game, which is you yell freeze, the kids have to freeze because they know that game anyway. They play freeze tag, and the dog has to sit. So someone has to get the dog to sit. But if you play that enough, the dog becomes into that game as well. So everybody can bring their energy level down so we don't get everybody all rubbed up and get a bad scenario happening.
One of the most common things that I see as an issue is introducing a stranger or approaching a dog in particular that someone doesn't know. They feel comfortable because they're comfortable around their animals. That doesn't quite mean they're going to be comfortable with every animal, and vice versa.
This is a common scenario, especially with dog lovers, because we tend to go, oh, I love all dogs, they all love me, and that's just really not true. So I do, number one, dogs shouldn't be expected to love everybody. They tolerate stuff from their families oftentimes that they won't tolerate from anyone else. Same with us. You know, I don't mind my husband hugging me, but I don't want some man I don't know to come up and hug me. I mean, there's things that we want and tolerate and enjoy from family members that we don't want or tolerate and enjoy from others. And dogs are the same way. So your dog might love your children. They might play with your children, but another child coming up to your dog, the dog may not want that same interaction. So you really want to look at, is the dog willing to approach you? That's my number one gauge. We often say, ask the owner, ask the dog, and then pet the dog. And ignore what the owner says and go by what the dog says. That's what I always tell people. Because most owners of the pet parent will say, yeah, you can pet my dog, it's great. But if that dog is saying, I don't want to be petted right now, I'm hiding behind mom's leg, and then helpful mom is, pulling the dog out from behind her leg to say, no, really, he likes kids, I would be listening to the dog, and the dog is saying no. So you really have to teach everybody, it's not enough just to say, can I pet your dog? You really have to look at the dog and say, does that dog want to interact with me right now? And if the dog is saying no, then you need to respect that and just give the dog space.
Robin, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and information on this topic. So important. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this PetX Talk. To learn more information about Robin Bennett, visit robinkbennett.com. Funding for PetX Talks is provided by Pet World Media Group, your partner in all things pet media. Additional funding and considerations for PetX Talks is provided by Natura Pets. Natura Pets can help you optimize your pet's health with premium organic supplements from the Amazon and Andes Mountains. Visit naturapets.com. Dogwise Publishing, all things dog. For all of your expert dog book needs, visit dogwise.com. Found Animals, working towards big ideas that advance the safety and happiness of animals in our homes, our shelters, and everywhere in between. Visit foundanimals.org. Special thanks to Pet World Insider, taking you inside the world of pets. Visit petworldinsider.com for more expert radio interviews, articles, and videos. This has been a Pet World Media Group production.